violence. 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 I repeat it because this is what we're heading towards. And I've mentioned this before on this podcast. It really has me frightened, concerned, worried. The editorial board of the New York Times has a piece out today, the headline of which is America can have democracy or political violence, not both. And I'll probably get to that momentarily. I have been witness to, in the course of my life, an awful lot of political unrest. Let's use that term that I hate, unrest. I've been involved in demonstrations. I've been arrested. I've been gassed, yada, 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 like so many people in my generation. But there are some days that stand out for me in terms of leading us toward the dissolution of this republic. Milestone events, dates. I think the most prominent was, I think it was December 13th or December 15th, 2000, when the U.S. Supreme Court ordered the ending of counting votes in Florida, even though the Florida Supreme Court had ordered the votes count to continue. U.S. Supreme Court said, no, it's over. And I guess it was within 24, 36 hours, whatever it was, that Al Gore offered up his concession speech, even though, as it turned out, Al Gore should have been elected president. God only knows where this country would be now had the real results of that presidential election been allowed to occur. I remember where I was when I heard about that. I was on the road from Atlanta to Detroit, Michigan. And I was going to Detroit to meet with certain executives at the United Auto Workers Union headquarters about their network, i.e. America Radio Network, that I was about to become a part of here in Atlanta. And when I heard this announcement by the radio, I guess, that the Supreme Court had ordered, in a sense, had ordered George W. Bush to become the next president of the United States, if I remember, I started screaming. Screaming curse words and all sorts of ugly shit. The second time I felt this sense of real disaster was when Hillary Clinton won the 2016 election by about 3 or 4 million votes. But because of our racist electoral college system, this monster terrorist, the orange vomit himself, Donald Trump, was declared president. And between those two events, 2000 and in the year 2000, the year 2016, just a series of indicators to me that not only had the Christian demons, the Christian terrorists, not only had they gutted and taken over almost completely at the time the Republican Party, they were very close to doing so, and that their agenda was one of violence, purely and simply Christian violence, the kind of violence that has soaked this planet in blood for 2 millennia. And here it was again. And I wasn't, I didn't know how to react in the year 2000 or in the year 2016. I didn't know what to do. What the hell could I do? But over those 16 years, I watched this sometimes slow, sometimes escalating deterioration of the idea of democracy in this country, self-governance, the erosion of that, the dissolution, the shredding of it. And so here we are in 2022. And violence is on the horizon. I guess you know this, on the near horizon. I'm not talking about next year. I'm talking about next week. Now, the violence is either going to be as a result of the Republicans losing what they thought they were going to have, and that is control of the House and the Senate, or the violence is going to come because of normal Americans who come out of the ether and realize what the fuck has happened and how democracy is, in fact, ended. If the Republicans get the House and the Senate, democracy in this country is over. It may be a zombie walking dead for a while, like the Republican Party has been, but democracy itself is over. And the final nails in the coffin, so to speak, will occur on Election Day in 2024, when this murderous fuck Donald Trump once again becomes president. Violence. Violence as American as apple pie. And now we have to deal with Christian terrorist violence. And now it's become an issue, a big issue. New York Times editorial board, America can have democracy or political violence, not both. I agree. GOP extremism is the ghoul in the room in the Washington Post. I agree. Why the right keeps telling awful lies about the Pelosi attack. Absolutely. And then Biden's speech yesterday, where he warned that the big lie is imperiling American democracy and leading to violence. And one thing, ask your black friends about this, but my black friends told me this years ago. No matter what the critical issue is facing American society, whether it's poverty, violence, educational destruction, no matter what it is, as long as it just infected or affected, or both, black people, fuck it, who cared? But once it starts to affect and infect white people, holy shit! Which is what has happened now. I have to tell you, I've had some conversations with some of my friends of color of late, who once again pointed that out to me along the lines of, Malloy, it never fails to amaze us how white people finally take notice of a drug epidemic when tens of thousands of white people start to die. The white people finally take notice of voter suppression when tens of thousands of white people are denied the right to vote. In that vein, on and on. And, I will sit there and have another beer and say, I understand, you're preaching to the choir when you tell me that shit. I get that. I know that. But now the violence has metastasized to the point where it is the driving force of what used to be the Republican Party. Threats of violence and actual violence. And it is not going to ease up, much less stop. It's not. It's just beginning. What a horrible fucking thing to have to deal with 6 days before these midterm elections. And the elections coming up are going to cement the idea of political violence as being how we determine the leadership of this country. Whether it is smashing through the door of Nancy Pelosi's house in San Francisco, or threatening people who are going to the polls just to fucking vote, or these vigilante groups, these cowardly chicken shit fucks who decide to attack the Capitol of the United States because they don't like the outcome of an election. Violence. I'm telling you. Violence. Now, to what I wanted to bring up, the editorial board, New York Times, they're not reporters. They're the editorial board. And they say at the beginning that what they've written here is the first in a series of what they call The Danger Within, which urges readers to understand, American readers to understand the danger of the extremist violence that is now saturating this country. And they add possible solutions, right? And they point out that over the past 5 years, these incidents of political violence in this country by Christian terrorist extremists, those incidents, the number of them has soared. And the idea is that few of the experts who track this kind of violence actually believe that things are going to get better anytime soon. And they add, without concerted action. What the hell does that mean? What would be concerted action to stop organizations like the Proud Boys and the Three Percenters and the Oath Keepers? What would stop them short of eliminating them? That's a fair question. But they make the point that this domestic extremism, violence, is actually going to get worse. They also point out that the attack on Paul Pelosi is only the latest episode of this. And what we've talked about on this podcast many times, federal officials are now warning that the threat of violence is going to continue to escalate after next Tuesday. Holy shit. And it is caused to a large degree by the embrace of this violent Christian terrorist ideology and rhetoric by these so-called Republican politicians during and after the Orange Vomit's presidency. And then another factor is the anti-government madness that was ginned up related to the pandemic. You remember the videos, don't you? Screaming fucking parents going to school board meetings, shrieking about how their constitutional rights were not going to be violated because their kids were told to wear a goddamn mask into school. This kind of fucking madness. Or Trump saying, well, you can always inject a Lysol into your blood and it'll cure your COVID. Besides, it'll all be gone by April anyway. We only have 3 cases in the United. Remember this? And then another factor, of course, is the lies, the disinformation. And then, of course, always the ubiquity of guns and this radicalized internet culture. And that's going to get worse. Look at this South African racist Elon Musk, who just bought Twitter. You and I have no comprehension of what's going to happen with the Twitter platform. But I can say confidently, it's going to be fucking horrible. None of these aspects of what's driving violence in this country, not one is in retreat. None of them. You know, let's keep in mind that the Orange Vomit was the first American president ever to get an armed mob so fucking worked up they would storm the Capitol and threaten to murder the vice president, the Speaker of the House, members of Congress. So when you consider all of this, And if you're not considering it, you're asleep, and your sleeping state may become permanent. But when you consider all of this stuff, you should be able to see that we are entering an era of endemic political violence that has in the past and will in this country, it will undo democracy. You know, if that happens, we're not the first country to experience that. There have been so many efforts, some of them who were murdered in their crib, you might say, at democracy. So many efforts that maybe lasted a year and a half, 2 years in countries that had been under fascist governments or communist governments who took a chance on democracy and watched the extremist factions within their own country destroy it. We're we're right there. We're right there at the beginning point of the end of democracy. We're right there. You know, we only have two political parties in this country, and the framers of the Constitution, as hypocritical as they were, warned against the forming of political parties. They specifically warned against it, that doing such would be a direct threat to democratic self-government. And now it's happened. One of those two main political parties, the Christian Terrorist Party, embraces this insanity, the extremism, the violence, the belief in the sick fuck Donald Trump. And all of that makes it difficult, if not impossible, to stop it. But if we don't stop it, then we're going to have to adjust one way or the other to living in a fascist state. Now, I remember saying about, oh God, how long ago was it? 10 years ago, when I was still doing talk radio, that in a fascist country, it is possible for certain segments of the population in a fascist country to live quite comfortably, you know, until all-out war breaks out. But as long as in this country, as long as you're white and Christian and male and willing to pretend that you're going along with everything, well, shit, you know, what do you got to worry about? Everything will be fine. If you're female, you're fucked. If you're a person of color, you're fucked. If you're a female person of color, you're double fucked. If you're a Jew, if you're a Muslim, if you're an immigrant, if you are a college professor, if you are well educated, you're fucked in a fascist state. But if you're white, male, Christian freak who's willing to do exactly as you're told and do not raise your voice. This is what Putin told the Russian people. Look, go about your life, have your fun, but don't you make a goddamn sound about politics. Or I will poison you. I will kill you. I will disappear you. Oh, of course, he didn't say that at the end, but it was implicit in what he said. And the Russian people understood it. They've been through this in their entire history. Go about your business. Go to your sporting games. Watch television. Go get a job. But don't say a fucking word about the politics of the ruling party. That's Russian. That's also going to become American. Do you understand that? I know you do. I know. I know. The legal tools in this country to try to stop this, the violence that we're heading into, according to the Times, in their editorial, those legal tools are already available. And in many cases, they're written into state constitutions in the laws prohibiting private paramilitary activity. But then here's a quote from Philip Zelikow, who is the former executive director of the 9/11 Commission. This guy pioneered legal strategies to go after violent extremists earlier in his career. But this is what he said, quote, "I fear that the country is entering a phase of history with more organized domestic civil violence than we've seen in 100 years." End quote. And he is advocating that we have to develop legal strategies to go after these violent extremists. But once again, I refer back to what my black friends have told me over the years. Malloy, the violence, the extremism. Are you fucking kidding us? We have dealt with it for 350 years. We have seen our families ripped to pieces, our men slaughtered, our women raped and lynched, our children made parentless when they were sold downriver. We have gone through this, and now that it's affecting white people, you're losing your shit. But for Zelikow, and I respect what he's saying, when he says, "I fear that the country is entering a phase of history with more organized domestic civil violence than we've seen in 100 years. Mr. Zelikow, sir, with all due respect, you're going back to 1920. Why not go back to 1820 or 1720? I mean, seriously, I know it doesn't affect any of us. But the range of violence, as the Times editorial points out, the range of violence in recent years shows that the scourge of extremism, this right-wing neo-Nazi Christian terrorism in this country, is evident in our politics. It's there if you want to see it. And the threat that we're facing now, the existential threat, comes from the right-wing side of our political structure. It used to be called Republicans. Don't laugh. Then here's a statistic for you. Of the more than 440 extremism-related murders committed in the past decade, 75% were committed by right-wing extremists, white supremacists, or anti-government extremists. The remaining quarter stemmed from a range of other motivations, according to a study by the Anti-Defamation League. There were 29 extremist-related homicides last year. 26 were committed by right-wing extremists. I will say Christian terrorists. 2 of those murders were committed by black nationalists and 1 by an Islamic extremist. The Department of Homeland Security has warned again and again that domestic extremism motivated by white supremacists and other right-wing ideologies is this country's top terrorism threat. Now, the Times, I guess, feels compelled, even though this is an editorial and not a news item, but they feel compelled to come up with some whataboutism. This is what they say. There have been attacks on conservatives, too. A man was arrested outside Brett Kavanaugh's home after he said he wanted to kill a justice. Ooh. And in 2017, what is that, 5 years ago? The episode, or the shooting of Representative Steve Scalise at a baseball field. Oh, yes, let's not forget that. And if I remember correctly, the shooter, while he espoused left-wing policies, just opened fire on everybody who was there. Steve Scalise was not targeted. Nancy Pelosi was. Mike Pence was. And on and on and on. So the nature of the episodes, when they talk about Steve Scalise, as the one shining example of somebody on the right who was almost killed. Horseshit. The numbers aren't comparable. The nature of these attacks is not comparable. And no leading figure in the Democratic Party condones, mocks, or encourages violence in the way these demons in the Christian Fascist Party do 24/7 and are doing right now. If you're listening to this podcast now at almost 10 o'clock Eastern Time, I will guarantee you, switch over to your television, take a look at Fox, and look at what they're talking about. But it's not just violence. It's the threat of violence that's begun to have this corrosive effect on public life. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com. And never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.